Let's put the spotlight on the Marcos administration's foreign policy. Joining us now is foreign policy analyst Enrico Gloria. Enrico, thank you so much for joining us. How significant was this visit of Foreign Minister Wang Yis to the Philippines?
Well, I must say, the visit is quite significant, very significant actually, since you must understand that this is the first visit of a foreign minister to President Marcos. And at the same time, I would treat Wang Yis as basically number two to Xi Jinping when it comes to Chinese foreign policy. And in terms of the substance of that visit, really, if you would focus on the issues that were tackled, it was really more about broadening, as you've said a while ago, the scope of the relationship of these two countries, going beyond issues in the West Philippine Sea. So I guess that in effect signals what type of relationship we could expect between the two countries in the coming 6 years.
And of course, Wang Yis, in a statement in the Foreign Affairs Department, said he hopes for a golden era in bilateral relations and turning a new page between the Philippines and China. So where does that leave this dispute in the West Philippine Sea? Do you think it will be sidelined by the Marcos administration during his 6-year term?
Yeah. Well, the fact that it was stated they wanted to turn a new leaf, pursue a golden era of Philippine-China relations, you have to understand that this is not new when it comes to describing Philippine-China relations. It basically signals, as you've said, an effort on behalf of China to actually sort of sideline the dispute in West Philippine Sea and focus on other areas. Now, I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily. I think it captures the entirety of, if you will, of Philippine-China relations. That at the end of the day, when we talk about Philippine-China relations, it's really not just about the conflict in West Philippine Sea. While, our interests there and the conflict has been heightened in the past years, I agree with the fact that we should actually focus on other areas. However, it doesn't mean that Marcos' presidency should effectively sideline the issue. I do still believe that the best of both worlds, if you will, could still be achieved. That we significantly gain in terms of securing our territories in West Philippine Sea, yet at the same time exploring these other areas of opportunities, which have been ongoing even before this administration and even prior to Duterte's administration.
But Enrico, the president has said previously he will respect the 2016 Hague decision. And back in May, he said, our sovereignty is sacred and we will not compromise it in any way. Do you respect that by not implementing it?
I'm glad you've mentioned it, since we're actually celebrating the anniversary just 10 days from now on July 16. I think it's quite expected for any Philippine politician or official to rhetorically say that they will respect the Hague ruling, and they should. But I think what has been missing for the past 6 years is to really respect it as a pillar of Philippine foreign policy, meaning that I think all negotiations emanating from when it comes to our interest in West Philippine Sea should also respect the spirit of the arbitral ruling, more than just paying the necessary rhetoric to it. Whether on how this will actually be exercised in reality, I think we have to leave it at the wisdom of the president at this point. But for me, there are many opportunities to be made in terms of normalizing, for instance, the victory that we achieved 8 years ago, and at the same time, making concrete that it is indeed central in our foreign policy.
All right. That will have to be decided over the next few years, or maybe in the 6-year term of President Marcos. But of course, apart from that, in this visit of the foreign minister, do you think he promised the government new investments, new jobs, new loans for the Philippines?
Well, I would have to look at the fine print of what was actually been discussed during the meeting, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are pledges coming in our way. It has always been the practice of, I guess, Chinese foreign policy and diplomats in general to have these pledges. But more than the pledges, we are actually more concerned about the reality of Chinese aid in the developing world and in the Philippines more specifically. And like you've said, no, it's up to the next couple of days, no, whether we're going to see new rounds of pledges and concrete partnership agreements, no, between China and the
because
Philippines.
Enrico, during the term of President Duterte, we saw the entry of POGOs. This term POGOs became so popular, and Chinese workers contracted to work in the Philippines on Chinese finance projects. Instead of giving the jobs to Filipinos, there were Chinese workers working on Chinese projects.
Well, you're right, no? And if we're looking at patterns in Philippine-China relations, if we say that basically there's continuity between Duterte and BBM as far as our relationship with China is concerned, then we might probably expect more of this to come within our borders. But you also have to understand that Philippine-China relations is not the only factor at play here. China is still bent on keeping its zero COVID strategy, which means tighter borders, stricter controls in terms of international travel. That will certainly have an impact on the incentives that Chinese nationals themselves would have in terms of their business dealings overseas. No? So there's a lot of factors at play. And I think most important of which at this moment is really the COVID-19 pandemic and how China plans to deal with this, no, going beyond.
Thank you so much for your insights, foreign policy analyst Enrico Gloria.